Today, we're looking at Colorverse Crystal Planet. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Colorverse Crystal Planet is a part of their Season 1, and it's a blue ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Retro 51 Tornado with a broad nib to take my notes for this video. Before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. And up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. And we see that it leaves a slightly darker light blue, and then it's a very light blue that pushes up the page. It turns much darker with a very dark blue line across the top. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. Now we get a thicker, darker blue across the bottom. It pushes up with that same light blue as the first chromatography. The dark blue comes back with a very dark blue along the top, but I feel like I'm not going to see a lot of resistance for this ink. Speaking of resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, as well as how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, well, part of it went away because apparently the bleach exploded across the paper. But the highlighter on the majority just seemed to spread itself out some, but it didn't become unreadable, and it seems to be generally okay for highlighter use. Water completely reactivates, pulls up most of the ink, leaving that light blue behind. Pen flush does the same thing as water. And while it's doing the same thing as water, more importantly, what I've been learning is when flush looks the same as water, it means that water should normally be all that's needed to clean from the pen. The pen flush did nothing special compared to the water, except you see some nicer blooming of the color. And the bleach exploded around this particular swab, and it's completely removing it. It's leaving a little bit of yellow staining, but it's going away. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Colorverse Crystal Planet has a viscosity of 2.33, which puts it right in normal, without any kind of problem. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper with the extra fine and medium nib. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Colorverse Crystal Planet has an average dry time of 18 seconds. So while it puts it a little bit higher than the average, it's still a completely normal dry time. Along with its completely normal viscosity, makes this ink great for testing out pens that you might not be sure about how they're going to be performing. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in, you guessed it, sample form. And to keep my writing samples consistent, you guessed it, use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. With the 1.1 we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. The extra fine gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, but we do get some shading, light shading through the writing, in quick, in brown, in over, in the, 12 seconds to dry. But when we go to the wetter medium, that broader nib, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. But it is definitely a darker tone, very definitely a darker tone. 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us with the extra fine that we can expect some color variation, and we did get some color variation in the writing. The medium shows us no color variation, and we didn't get it. The smear, you might be able to recover this if you smeared while you were writing. So Tomoe River, no bleeding. We get ghosting. The 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. The extra fine gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade for 19 seconds to dry. A very long time for this ink to dry. The medium is a certainly darker tone. No feathering, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 29 seconds for this ink to dry. The scrubby, the extra fine, shows us nothing. Medium shows us nothing. No color variation for this ink. The smear says you don't get to recover it. That's a problem with the Tomoe River, not this ink. Rhodia gives us no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Some shading in the writing. We do get some shading in the writing. It's just that it's coming across darker and then much darker. So the AL of crystal is definitely lighter than the T of crystal. Extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, some shading in the writing. So we get some nice shading in there, again, being sort of a, I don't want to call it a dark blue, but it is a darker blue. Then it goes from that darker, to even darker, like on lazy compared to dog. But where I see the color variation is more from a word to a word, not within the word. So this ink levels itself out as it's drying. 13 seconds to dry. Medium is definitely a dark, I have to stop with this definitelys. Medium is a darker tone. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 18 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows us we're going to get a little color variation, and we did get some, word to word. The medium shows us no color variation, and we didn't get any. The smear, I believe you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. So Levenger paper gives us no bleeding, no ghosting. And I think we're seeing the most color variation here of any of the papers. It doesn't give us shading anywhere, but I think the color variation between the 1.1, the extra fine, and the medium is an entirely different tone of this blue. But I like Levenger paper, so I might be biased in that. But it definitely it is a lighter tone at the 1.1 than the medium, and a lighter tone at the extra fine than the 1.1. Okay, so the 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. The extra fine gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 8 seconds to dry. And the medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 14 seconds to dry. Scrubby of both show us we're not going to get any color variation, and we didn't get any color variation. The smear test says you can likely recover this. So I decided to test this on Franklin Christoph paper. We got no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 6 seconds to dry. The medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 9 seconds to dry. And the scrubbies show us no color variation, and we didn't get any color variation. The smear says you likely are not recovering this one when you smear it, not on this paper. That's all that I have for the writing sample. Instead of finding inks that look like Colorverse Crystal Planet, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And since this is a very bright blue, I was thinking of a very dark brown, like Manjino, Nakahma, Whalemans, Sepia from Noodlers. Wow, I got that the first time. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Colorverse Crystal Planet? I think the shading, as frequently can happen, is controlled by what nib and flow of the pen that you choose to use. This is normal. Now for the color and performance of this blue, I feel like it's overpriced. These Colorverse inks are quite expensive to get a hold of considering their volume. It's the result of great marketing. Thanks for watching.